Okay, last thing I want to mention in the second essay of the Genealogy of Morals by Nietzsche is this idea of memory, particularly in the first three sections, sections 1, 2, and 3. Nietzsche talks about forgetting in relation to memory and seems to indicate that forgetting is a kind of healthy thing. And memory is precisely what allows us to develop resentment because we don't let go of things. On the other hand, we've seen, and Nietzsche hinted at this in the first essay, that resentment is also connected with cleverness and intellect. And you can see that now. I mean, memory and resentment go hand in hand. Resentment and intellect and cleverness and maturity go hand in hand. So is Nietzsche critiquing our intellect? Yes, but it's a sort of necessary evil. With this, you could think of it in terms of a kind of explanation of the rise of human consciousness or the fall of man, the way it's put in the biblical stories. In the biblical stories, it's Adam and Eve eat of the fruit of the tree of knowledge of good and evil. Now, that's obviously, in some sense, a metaphor because good and evil doesn't grow on trees, or knowledge of good and evil doesn't grow on trees. But it's showing that there's a shift in consciousness when human beings get awareness of the knowledge of good and evil. Remember what Nietzsche says about good and evil, and it arising in particular from resentment. So we can put it this way. Resentment arises from memory, and from resentment, or knowledge of good and evil arises from resentment. Why? Because in order to resent, I have to feel in a weakened position and see the outside threat as evil. So I gain knowledge of good and evil. At the same time, I feel resentment. Yet that feeling of resentment is contingent upon an advance in memory, and a kind of leap in memory, my ability to remember. Okay? And so too, then, does the idea of guilt arise from memory. Resentment, guilt, this idea of the human being going inward is all connected to Nietzsche's theory of, in a certain sense, the birth of human consciousness. I don't think he would put it that way, but yeah.